Hey everyone, and welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something that's a real game changer for AI agents. We're talking about giving your OpenClaw agent a direct line to the live, real-time internet.
So let's just start with the main problem, right? You've got this super powerful AI agent, but what happens when it needs to know something that just happened, or check the current price of a new gadget? Well, it hits a wall, a big one.
And this slide just lays it out perfectly. On the left, you've got the standard agent. It's stuck in the past, its knowledge has a cutoff date, and it's basically blind to the world as it is right now. But on the right, with the Decodo skill, that same agent gets a powerful window to literally any public URL. It can see the news, track products, and get data that's fresh and current. It is a huge leap forward.
So here's what we've got on tap for this explainer. First, we'll talk about that AI agent blind spot. Then, we'll introduce Decodo as the solution. After that, we'll get into the 7 new superpowers it gives your agent, look at some real-world workflows, and finally, we'll cover the setup, costs, and some important things to keep in mind.
Okay, let's dive right in. Section 1. The AI agent's blind spot. So why exactly can't your agent just see the internet?
The whole issue really boils down to one thing. Large language models are trained on a giant snapshot of the internet that's frozen in time. They have a knowledge cutoff date. So they know a ton about things that happened before that date, but ask them about today's news, forget it. It's just not in there.
Now you're probably thinking, okay, but why can't the agent just go and scrape the web itself? Well, it turns out that's incredibly difficult. If you try, you run straight into a minefield of problems. Your IP address gets blocked. You're hit with endless CAPTCHAs. Half the content is hidden behind JavaScript. It's a mess. Honestly, just managing the plumbing of web scraping is a full-time job.
And that, of course, brings us to the elegant solution. If trying to scrape the web directly as a dead end for an agent, then what's the answer? Well, this is where the Decodo skill comes in, acting as a perfect window to the web.
So what is this thing exactly? You can think of the Decodo OpenClaw skill as a simple bridge. It's a really thin wrapper that connects your agent directly to Decodo's heavy-duty web scraping API. This means your agent doesn't need to know how to deal with all that web scraping complexity, it just needs to know what information to ask for.
Now here's the magic behind it, why it works so well. The skill basically offloads all those hard problems we just mentioned to Decodo's massive infrastructure. We're talking over 125 million proxy locations, which means no more IP blocks. It handles CAPTCHAs and JavaScript automatically. And, most importantly, it hands back clean, perfectly structured data in JSON or Markdown, formats an LLM can instantly understand and use.
So just by installing this one little skill, your agent suddenly gets a whole new toolkit. We're talking about 7 brand new superpowers that it can call on whenever it needs to. This table breaks down those 7 superpowers beautifully. Your agent can now do a Google search and get real-time results. It can use the universal tool to grab the content of any web page and instantly turn it into clean Markdown. It's even got specialized tools for Amazon, for pulling subtitles straight from YouTube videos, and for digging into Reddit posts or entire subreddits. This is the heart of what makes the agent so much more capable.
Okay, so having the tools is one thing. But what can an agent actually do with all this? Let's look at a few practical workflows to see how this translates to real-world impact. Here's a perfect example of chaining these tools together. Imagine a market research agent. In a single run, completely on its own, it can use Google Search to find the latest news on a competitor, then hop over to Amazon Search to check their prices, and finally use Reddit subreddit to see what people are actually saying about them. All of that happens autonomously. Or, think about a content pipeline. Your agent gets a list of articles, uses the universal tool on each one, and out comes clean, ready-to-use Markdown text. That is perfect for feeding into a summarization model or for building out a knowledge base for a retrieval-augmented generation, or RAG system. It basically automates the entire messy data collection step. And this last one is just so incredibly efficient. Instead of having to download a whole video and run a complicated speech-to-text model, the agent can just use the YouTube subtitles tool to get the full transcript directly. From there, summarizing it or pulling out key facts is a piece of cake. It's a fantastic shortcut for anyone doing video analysis.
All right, this all sounds pretty amazing, but what's the catch? What does it actually take to get going? In this last section, we're going to cover the practical side of things, the setup, the costs, and a few caveats you'll want to know about.
The setup process is, and I'm not kidding here, refreshingly simple.
It is literally just 3 commands in your terminal. You clone the repository from GitHub, install the requirements, and then you set your authentication token as an environment variable. That's it. Your agent is now superpowered.
Now for the trade-off. This incredible power isn't completely free. The skill does require a Decodo account, and while there's a free tier that lets you get your feet wet, any kind of serious high-volume usage is metered. So that's something you'll definitely want to factor in before you build a big production workflow around it.
And finally, just a couple of important things to keep in mind. First, remember this skill is a thin wrapper, which means any limits from the Decodo API itself will apply to your agent. Second, your authentication token is a single static key. You need to treat it like a password and keep it safe. And because the skill is so lightweight, it doesn't have fancy stuff like automatic retries built in. So, as always, test for failures before you go live in production.
And that really brings us to the end. The barrier between your AI agent and the live, breathing internet has effectively been torn down. It can now see, read, and analyze what's happening in the world right now. So the only real question left is, what are you going to ask it to do first?